is now a communicator and creative director at 2 Cents Creative in Atlanta, Georgia. Joseph Sojourner graduated from Firestone High School in Akron, Ohio. Sojo's high school friends describe him as shy, artsy, and a perfectionist. He's passionate about helping a young generation unlock their extraordinary potential. Please welcome Sojo to Life Conference 2019.
I have been waiting for this night right here. How are we feeling? Y'all, listen, I don't know how I could have got a better start. I mean, we started with Social Club Misfits, came in, had y'all jumping around after the pre-party, and then my friends Forever Free getting a chance to lead us in worship, and now it's my turn. How are y'all feeling tonight? Y'all got some energy left. And then y'all gonna go run a 5K after this. I don't know how y'all got this much energy in one night, but I tell you what, I believe that God's about to do some incredible things through y'all tonight, whether it's hitting the streets and running or whether it's just being in here and being able to run towards a brand new direction. Here's the thing. It's kind of weird to get an introduction or to even kind of tell you about myself because we've been hanging out for the past few days. I feel like I've talked to at least a third of you in the hallways. I feel like I've been hanging out like an hour and a half to 2 hours after every single night. But in case this is our first time getting an official introduction, yes, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I get a chance to travel. Oh, okay, there we go, Georgia. I get a chance to travel all around the world and talk to young people as well as young adults, college, and young professionals about what it looks like to truly awaken to God's purpose in your life. And so when Life reached out to me and said, hey, we want to get you a chance where we would love for you to come and speak to this incredible group of 6,000 beautiful men and women about this idea, I can't stress enough how excited I was because I'm like, oh, I believe that there's something special about the group. I mean, I was here 3 years ago, but the thing about this is so many of you weren't even here 3 years ago. In fact, by a show of hands, how many of this is your first time to Life Conference? Yeah. Wow. And I truly think that God moves in this incredible way at this conference and allows you, all the guys, all the girls in this room to walk out these doors and truly change the world. Now, here's the crazy thing about the world we live in, the world that you live in, that I live in, is that we were all born into this crazy circumstance. We're not the first ones to walk this planet. Look at the person sitting next to you, say you wasn't the first. You wasn't the first. Just tell them. Not only were they not the first, they weren't even the first generation. And so we were born, and not only were we just born and began to grow, but we had to grow and understand the world that we were born into. All the laws that our parents made, all the laws that our grandparents made, all the laws that generation and ancient societies made that made America what it is today, that made the world what it is today. And we're born into all that, but nonetheless, you're also born into your family's story. And now you got to figure out how your family moves. You got to figure out how your mom and your dad move. You got to figure out how your brothers and sisters and your cousins and your auntie and your uncles and everyone is putting this pressure on you. And some of you are nodding already like, yep, that's my situation, Sojo. They be up on me every day. My mom been texting me since I got here talking about, did you wash? Hopefully that's not what she has been texting you, but I'm not sure. It's this crazy, huge world that we're born into. We're trying our best to not just navigate our situations, our family situations, and the world norms, but we also have these things called social cues. We got to know how society works. We not only have to know how society works, we have to know how to win in this world because no one wants to end up losing down the road. And so while you're trying to learn all of that information, you're also trying to learn yourself. And that's a lot that's on y'all's plate. And it's what I think makes this generation so rare because, yes, they live in the information age, bombarded with all these messages, bombarded with all the news. And yet, within all the noise, within all that confronting you and with all that bombarding your ears every single day in your eyes, you still are on this massive pursuit to say, who am I? And here's what I love most. Is that as you're traveling through this world, as you're traveling through your neighborhoods, your schools, your homes, and all of your friendship circles, you don't even notice it, but you immediately begin to compartmentalize. And reality is, scientists say that's just the human brain trying to make sense of a massive world that God made, a massive universe, a massive galaxy. All of us placed in this little tiny blue circle called Earth with a little moon on the outside that orbits around a huge sun at 493,000 miles per hour, spinning at about 52,000 miles per hour. You're thinking all that's happening right now. Yes, that's all happening right now as I speak. And you're trying to make sense of it all. And while you do, your brain immediately starts compartmentalizing. And if you think I'm lying, I'm going to toss it out to you guys right now. In fact, I'm going to open this up to communication. It's a little bit bigger room than I usually talk in, but I don't care. I feel like we're family now. I'm gonna show you right now that you immediately compartmentalize, probably without even thinking about it. I'm just gonna ask a question and you just shout your answer back at me. If I were to tell you that I am someone that only shops at Whole Foods, what would you immediately think? Vegan, okay. You said what? Hipster. She said you're a hipster. Healthy. Wealthy. Healthy, wealthy, hipster. One more. Doesn't shower. Okay, wow. That's a little bit offensive. If bougie, somebody said backstage. If I told you my favorite animal was bunnies, what would you think? Soft. Here's soft. Pansy. Wow, that's a tough one. Hurt. Ouch. It's getting really, we're for real family now. I mean, that's a whole new sense. If I told you that I only listen to Billie Eilish, what do you think? Okay. Calm down. We just had worship, okay? If I told you I only listen to Billie Eilish, what do you think? You, depressed? Emo. I'm an e-boy. E-boy, e-girl. Okay, I get that one all the time. So, oh, you an e-boy. If I told you I only wear Vans. So, yeah, all right. My boyfriend. Skater. I'll ask you one more. If I told you my favorite color was red. Is that your church color? Oh, okay, whoa. The big Nebraska. Somebody said passionate, somebody said angry. Isn't it crazy? All I did was toss out a word at a time. And for some odd, weird, crazy reason, this room began to ignite. Whole Foods, vegan, hipster, you don't shower. I said, Billie Eilish, oh, you an e-boy? You depressed? I'm like, no, I'm not. And do you see how as you're navigating through this world, our brains immediately begin to compartmentalize and immediately try to make sense, and we end up judging people by their covers, and we end up making assumptions about people and filling in those gaps that we're not quite sure, but all we know is all he talks about is bunnies and unicorns. He might be soft. I just don't know if I want to hang out with him. I'm a wrestler, I'm a football player. We don't want to talk about bunnies and all the new bunnies that just made it at the mall. And it's easy for us to begin to say, I'm not quite sure this person is who I want to hang out with. I'm not quite sure this person sizes up with who I am. But here's what's even more fascinating. That this generation, our generation, has truly done something that no generation before has ever done. And that is we've begun to shatter so many stereotypes that came before us. You look back at generations and say, hey, you know what? The way that women have been treated in years past, that's no more. From this point on, we're going to make sure that every single woman in this room knows that they deserve to be respected and they will not be treated like objects, and they will truly be somebody that can walk down the street and be judged by their minds, not by their bodies. That's what your generation did. And it's the generations before who said, you know what, because different colors can't get along because we're so different, your generation comes along. Our generation comes along and says, no, that's not how we're going to live, because we're going to follow people that don't look like us on social media so that we can understand their world better, put them in our friendship circles, and truly begin to change our schools, our neighborhoods, and our friendships. That's what your generation did. And then you began to say, hey, the job market, how everyone hires, we're going to change because we're not going to base ourselves based on career security and money. No. We're going to look at what truly makes us happy, and we're going to chase after that. We're going to say we're not going to trade our joy, our purpose, and our happiness just for a paycheck. No. That ends with that last generation. Our generation is looking for so much more. That's what our generation did together. But, look at your friend, say, but. As much as we've changed, as much as we've shattered the ceilings that were above our heads, we've also been pushed into more spaces, more labels, more categories, more algorithms than any generation before. And this is a generation that is the most rebellious generation to change so much good in culture, so much good in society, so much good with people overseas as well as their local communities, but oftentimes don't even see that they're neglecting themselves. And it doesn't matter if I'm in Orlando, it doesn't matter if I'm in California, it doesn't matter if I'm in London. I hear the exact same stories. I want to do good, Sojo. I want to go out and change the world. I want to truly do something impactful and significant. And yet I still end up making decisions. I still end up suffering from things that I don't even know what it is. And it doesn't seem like I can figure out those answers online. I'm living in the information age, yet nobody seems to have the exact information on fill in the blank, me. And you're walking around life, you're walking around your schools, you're even walking around life. And you're putting the smile on your face, and you're saying, I'm coming to sessions, I'm singing the song, Spirit lead me where your faith is without borders. But you don't feel it. Thank you. I used to take singing lessons when I was 6. No, I didn't do it for that. I didn't do it for, okay, come on. No, I'm playing, don't do that. You're walking around life, but you're not feeling what you hoped that you would feel. Because the reality is this, and I love what Megan said just last night, that each one of us have pain, but God is present within our pain. But there's also effects of pain. There's effects that some of you have been walking around with maybe for the past month, maybe for the past week, maybe for the past 10 years. Maybe it happened to you in a childhood. And if I'm gonna talk to you about this idea of what it looks like to awaken an entire generation to their capacity and their abilities in Jesus Christ, and I wanna first start by looking at you and saying, we gotta start with you. What's happening in your heart? What's happening in your life? Because I may not know every single story, and trust me, I've been reading as many of your DMs as possible, and every single night, y'all have been loading me up with the stories that are happening to you. And I can look in your eyes right now and tell you, there are some really hard things happening to people in this room. There are things that make me cringe as I read them each night. There are things you've said to me in the hallways that I'm like, I can't believe you sustained and went on past that. I can't believe you're able to endure with all that happening in your family and all that happening in your friendship circle. I can only imagine the kind of guy or girl that you are. God must truly have a plan for you, but reality is this, when you walk away, I understand that your story continues. We're all based on a true story, but it's not just our story. But each one of you are carrying around this load, and there's nothing worse than when I see a young guy or a young girl who literally throws in the towel because they say, you know what, nobody understands me. Nobody gets it. I've been carrying around this weight for so long, now I got a limp. I was injured a long time ago and never told anybody, and now I'm just bleeding out. And my friends are wondering why I'm so upset. My mom is wondering why I have so much anxiety. My cousins, my aunts, whatever who it is in my life is looking at me saying, what in the world is going on? And I want to put down my mask, I want to open up, and I want to tell them this is what's actually happening to me. But some of you in this room, some of you guys especially in this room know I can't let down my mask, because if they truly know what was going on, maybe they would look at me differently. And so you slap another label on yourself. I'm an athlete. You slap another label on yourself. I'm academic. You slap another label on yourself. You say, I'm the person that has to hold my family together. I'm the person that has to make sure I always keep a smile on my face. I'm the person that says that no matter what, I always have enough to keep going on. And you slap label after label after label. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I don't know why I don't have friends. I'm weird. For some reason, I don't make sense. I'm broken. Whatever your labels are that you continue to slap on yourself, just as Chloe talked about a second ago, you keep putting them on, hoping that they'll become Band-Aids to cover every wound. But as you go up and up and up, you begin to lose yourself behind these labels. And as I sit at tables with guys and girls who are trying to talk to me through their labels, hey, Sojourner, I gotta tell you, I'm somebody that really struggles with this, and I'm somebody that never was able to do this well, and I say, time out right there. You already are telling me your labels. Do you even notice? Do you even notice that you've been shoved behind all these fake labels that are holding you down and holding you with so much away, holding you away, I should say, from so much of what God wants to give to you? And here's what's even more crazy, is I talk to guys all the time and young ladies all the time who say, well, I'm someone that's strong enough to keep going. It doesn't really bother me. I didn't have a dad. I'm like, me neither. I didn't have somebody there to give me all the attaboys, but that's okay because I'm tough. Some of you are looking at me right now and I can see it in your eyes. That's me. I have what it takes. I don't need help. I don't really know you well enough, so I'm not about to open up to you. I'm okay. I'm cool. I'm an athlete now. I'm the star quarterback. And you think that all the things that happened to you or didn't happen to you have no effect. The reality is this: scientists continue to study human evolution and exactly what's happening in your minds and exactly what's happening in the chemistry of human-to-human interaction. And as more and more people go on, as more and more studies are being conducted, they realize 70% of people in this room, and I'll repeat the number, 70% of people in this room are struggling with things that happened to them in their childhood, things that were said to them or things that were never said to them. And if you think I'm lying, if you think it's just preacher man up there trying to spew some numbers, I'll tell you what, I had a chance to watch a documentary because I'm a little bit of a nerd and I like to watch all that science stuff on the side so that I understand exactly human psychology. And they put this mother in front of a baby, and I know some of you ladies and guys are gonna be like, I can't believe he's showing this video. I'm so mad at him. Sojo's so rude. Don't worry about that. I want you to hold on because there's a point to this video. But just in case you think you're unfazed, just in case you're wondering how energy works between man and woman, woman and woman, I want you to look at this experiment with the baby, because if a baby can feel it, imagine what you can feel that maybe you've never even admitted before. If I'm lying, I'm flying. Take a look at the screens.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In this still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
Yeah, some of you are like, I was about ready to punch her. I know. Maybe it's what you never received. I'm talking to the young guy, the young girl in here who didn't have a dad, didn't have a mom. Maybe they were in the home, but they weren't present. I'm talking to the person in this room who was looking for affirmation, but never received it. I'm looking for the person that, although nobody said anything to you, they looked at you a certain way. And you knew that they were sizing you up, and that you knew you weren't enough in their eyes. I'm talking to the person who wasn't invited to the table, who as you went on, you just got tougher and tougher and tougher. I'm cool, I'm good, I'm not gonna open up. And as you sit here in this room, maybe for the first time you realize, oh my gosh, I am branded with labels that don't allow me to open up, that don't allow me to feel what God is trying to do within my life because of what I wasn't given. But I'm also talking to the person in this room that maybe some things were said to you that were just untrue. Some lies were spoken over you, that you're ugly, and that you're not girlfriend material or boyfriend material, that you just aren't smart enough, you're just not fast enough, you don't have what it takes. You're trapped behind the labels of you're just too hyper, you're just too depressed, you're too anxious, you're gay. You're somebody that struggles with addiction. I don't know what's wrong with you. Why can't you get over it? And every day, you wake up and look at yourself in the mirror and you want to see all that God sees. But all you end up seeing is these lies. And as I talk to guys and as I talk to girls who are struggling to just see themselves again, struggling to be awake in a world that prides itself on being woke, they just can't seem to find their truth anymore, plastered, covered completely in lies and labels. And as I look in your eyes tonight, I say, God has a plan for every single one of you, but as long as you continue to hide behind the labels that the world has given you or maybe you've given yourself, God can't be able to use you the way he wants to use you. And what's so sad is the more you believe the lies, the more you begin to act out in them. That's why I always tell people there's no room to judge. There's no reason for anyone in this room to see people acting out in a negative way, see people smoking, to see people drinking, to see people doing all these things that may be reckless to their everyday life, and yet we know that they're simply reacting to their wounds. There's no room for us to point and say, you're less than me. No, we have to look and say, hey, what's happening in there? Because the reality is this, it's a tough world you all live in. And every single one of you knows somebody that's made decisions that you're thinking, why would they do that? What makes us different is that we understand our humanity. We understand that every single person in this room is walking with the handicap. That something negative, something hurtful has been done to each one of us, and we're just trying our best to hold on to a loving God who says, even despite your hurts, even despite your failures, oh, you are still beautiful in my eyes. To someone in this room who's struggling because of mistakes that they've made, I need you to hear this when I tell you. Failure is an event, not a person. And somebody needs to walk in freedom tonight. Maybe you've made a mistake, but failure is simply an event. You cannot be a failure when you are purchased by a God who says you are made in my image and still beautiful, just as beautiful as your day one. And I know it's difficult. I know as you continue to walk out, you'll say, hey, I wish I can break free of all that. And they'll oftentimes tell me, I keep making mistakes and I don't know why I keep going back to these simple decisions that I should not be making, but I put my hands up here at life. I make it all the way through all 9 sessions, but it seems like I go right back home and go right back into the same behaviors I did. And I say, well, that's because maybe you're still looking at yourself through your labels. You're looking at yourself saying, I'm just not strong enough. I just don't have what it takes. I mean, I love God. I know God is good to me, but me, myself, I know that I'm stupid. And you start looking again into all those things. That's why the Bible calls the devil the author of confusion. And some of us want to run to all the distractions of social media and everything else instead of working on it. And I want to put this on the screen so that you can see exactly what it is that I think is so, so important. And that is we are destined to repeat what we don't repair. And for some of you in the room, this is the first time you're going to look within and say, okay, tonight's the night. Maybe it's the first time you'll open up to your group and say, I know I've been smiling. I know I've been looking like I have it all together. But reality is, I've been bleeding for a long time, feeling like I've been carrying this all by myself. And I'm ready for God to use me in a way that he's never used me before. But it's time for me to open up and take all these labels off so that you can finally see me for who I am. About 2 years ago, I was standing on a stage very, very similar to this. But before I walked on stage, I was backstage lying on the floor crying, circled by people who were saying, hey, they wanted to pray over me. But the reality is I was so exhausted. I was so tired. I couldn't even see myself anymore. Why? Because I was somebody who didn't have a dad, who wasn't told a lot of things. And I thought that my actions defined exactly the kind of Christian that I was. And no matter how much I did, it just wouldn't be enough in God's eyes. And there I was, completely exhausted, completely broken, still feeling like I was a failure. And as I walked out on the stage, I had to place my mask on and smile and be so Joe. But as I walked backstage that night, I remember I hit my knees and I said, enough is enough. I've been leading while bleeding. And I know some of y'all have been doing the same. I'm trying to lead out in my youth group. I'm trying to lead out in my school. I'm trying to be the best brother I can be. I'm trying to be the best friend that I can be. But she's made comments and we've never had conversations. Things have been done to me and I've never actually faced them. I'm carrying around wounds from things that weren't said to me, and I've never opened up and shared them to anyone. And all I did was cover them up with yet another label and hope that nobody could see. But the reality is this: I'm leading while bleeding. But tonight I'm ready for God to use me despite this handicap and begin to heal these wounds and say, by these scars, people will begin to realize that they can relate to me. By these scars, they'll understand that I have a story. And by this story, they'll begin to see God's goodness. What goodness is this? It's the truth that every single one of us can hold on to. Why do we raise our hands? Why do we sing these songs? Why do we jump up and down and say that we should be the most energized and energetic people on this planet? Well, because we hold on to this simple truth. And if you got your Bibles, you can turn them to John chapter 1. It simply says this right here. I'm going to put it on the screen. John chapter 3, verses 1. It says, see what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called, what is that right there? I love it because he puts an exclamation point on it. He said, we need to first realize this: we've been lavished in his love that we may be called children of God. And that is what we are. As you begin ripping your labels off tonight, as you begin saying, you know what? What's the first base layer label that I need as I start my new beginning, as I awaken to all that God wants to do with me? The first label, the only label that truly matters that you can build your entire house on, is this one right here that says, oh, you are a child of God. That is what you are. Every other thing told to you in a negative way is just a lie, sent by the author of confusion to misplace you and have you running down the wrong paths. I want to put it back up so we can continue on. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him. Some of you are thinking, why is the world the way it is? We say, oh, that's why we walk out these doors and shine so bright. Because the more that they begin to see God in you, the more they begin to see his story shining through you, the more they'll begin to respond and say something about her is completely different. Dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known. But what we know is when Christ appears, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And this is what I tell people, this is why we jump up and down. This is why we get so excited about what God is doing in our lives. Because we understand that through the failures, through the mistakes, through every single flaw that we have, when we go back home to Nebraska, to New York, to Minnesota, wherever it is that you might go, they'll look at you and say, what happened at life? And you'll say, well, for the first time, I got back down to the basics. And I realized, yeah, I was hurt. Yeah, I had some wounds. Yeah, I'm far from perfect. But there is a perfect God who's walking with me every single day. When they say, tell me about this God, you'll be able to say, oh, listen, I can tell you that I understand all those pains and struggles that you have. I'm human, just like you. I've made mistakes, just like you. But I want to speak to you about a God that says you're still beautiful and that you're still made in his image and that he still has a plan for your life. And they'll begin to say, but wait, isn't he a God that judges me the same way that I judge others? The same kind of person that looks at them and say that they're not good enough because they're ugly or because they're not so whatever it may be. And you'll be able to say, oh, no, he doesn't judge us on those standards. He only judges us based on what we're going to do with all that he's given us. What has he given you? We have yet to know yet. But is that not the greatest adventure? To the person in this room, and I need you to feel me. I know it's been hard. I know life can beat you down. But God is looking at you right now and saying, I have a plan for your life. And the first step you can do tonight is to rip away the lies and say, I'm only placing one label on me when I lay my head on that pillow tonight. I am a child of God. And what happens next? Only the world knows. What happens next is bound to shock not just those around you, but people far, far beyond. Because as God begins to work and show you the new labels, the new you, as you begin to bump into Jesus and find the rest of you, because maybe you've only found a little bit, and he begins to awaken you to so much more, and you, and you, and you. You'll begin running in a different way. They'll begin seeing you in a different way. Not too long ago, I had a chance to watch this show. I saw this young gentleman who was afflicted with some labels, and people said, hey, he's autistic, he's blind, he doesn't have potential. Some of you already know what I'm talking about because you're already smiling. And they sized him up and said, I'd imagine that he can only go this far. And this young man gets a chance to walk on the stage and say, I know that the world might have judged me because of what they saw my flaws were. But he goes on to show the world that he has so much more in him than what they may expect. And as I watched this young man, I said, is this not exactly the way God is watching us? And I believe that God has placed something in every single guy and girl that is made to see everyone's potential if it's just shown. And that's why we cheer, and that's why we love the way we love. And if you think I'm lying, take a look at the screens one last time.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome to America's Got Talent. What's your name?
I'm Cody.
Hi, Cody.
I'm Cody D.
How old are you?
I am 22 years old.
Yeah.
Who are you, miss? Who are you?
I'm Mom.
Oh,
I'm
hi,
Tina
Mom.
Lee.
Hi, Tina. How are you? So, what are you going to do here for us today?
I'm gonna sing a song for you on the piano.
I love it. Tina, tell us a little bit about Cody.
Cody is blind and autistic.
Oh.
Wow.
We found out that he loved music really early on. He listened and his eyes just went huge. And he started singing. And that's when I was in tears, because that's when I realized, oh my gosh, he's an entertainer. So through music and performing, he was able to withstand living in this world, because when you're autistic, it's really hard to do what everybody else does. It actually has saved his life playing music.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we'd love to hear you. Go for it.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Go on, Cody. Go on. This is your time, okay? There's gonna be like 20 film cameras on you. Ready?
Yeah.
Go. Boom.
I've been to so many places in my life and time. I've sung a lot of songs, and I made some bad rhymes. I've acted out my life on stages, 10,000 people watching, yeah. We're alone now, and I'm singing a song to you. I love you in a place, oh, there's no space or time. I love you from my life. You're a friend of mine. But when my life is over, remember we're together. We're alone now, and I'm singing a song to you. And I'm singing a song to you. You are the reason I'm losing my sleep. Yes. Please come back now. There goes my mind racing.
What I love most about that scene was his mother standing beside him right before he goes. She kneels down beside the piano and she says, there's about 20, 30, 40 cameras staring at you right now. And remember what he said? Yeah. And he knew his afflictions. He knew he was far from perfect. And with the world watching, he had just one word for us. Yeah. And to the person in this room right now who said, yeah, I've been walking with a lot of things holding me down. I've been sized up. I've been told that I wasn't good enough. I've been told I don't have what it takes. I need you to see how God sees you right now. Because there's heaven watching. Every angel in heaven is looking at you right now. And they're looking at you saying, hey, do you see what we see in you? And for the first time, you have a chance to rip every lie off of you and look back up to Jesus and say, yeah, and shock the world as they begin to see you maybe for the first time ever. How do you awaken a generation? By allowing them to see themselves the way that God sees them. So tonight, you let go of the lies. You let go of your failures. You let go of your mistakes. And you say, I got something to say to the world. I got something to do. And I'm no longer hiding. I'm talking to the warriors in the room who understand it ain't gonna be easy, who understands that they have what they need to continue to go forward, who understand that, yeah, although life might throw whatever it has at you, that God has put so much more in you than they could ever have to take away. Greater is he that is in you than that which is in the world. And that's what you walk out this door with, and understand that when I run into people out there who are hurting, you understand this is the moment we speak. When we run into people who might see themselves as less than, we say this is when we speak. When we run into people who say, hey, you don't have what it takes, this is when we look up and we speak and we say, I am all that I am in you. I have made me enough in you, and that I will not let this world rob me of anything else. That is how we begin to walk out these doors and change people who begin to see God's light in us that cannot be dimmed by any lie, by any label, or by any person. My name is Joseph Sojourner. I didn't have a dad. I was bullied most of my childhood. I didn't speak from the 3rd grade all the way to the end of 11th grade. I never went to a school dance, never was chosen, never was picked, never even spoke until senior year. And if someone would have told me your voice mattered, I would have looked at them and said, no, not me. You don't know who I am. I don't have what it takes. I can't even speak in a classroom, less known on a school bus, never on a stage. But there was a youth pastor who looked in my eyes the same way that mother looked in that young man's, who said, oh, you don't know who you are just yet. You don't know how you've been made just yet. I want you to begin to speak. Can you say something, Sojo? And I said, well, I can't really say anything. I just started talking about 2 weeks ago. That was my senior year. And he said, you just started talking 2 weeks ago? I said, yeah. And you know what his response was? Then I'd imagine you got a lot to say. I know it's not easy. I read every single story. I feel you when I hug you, look in your eyes and see all that God's placed in it. But tonight, Tonight, I want you to see it. And as this band comes up and sings this song, I just want you to do this for me. I want us all to just lower our heads. Just lower your heads for me right now. I don't know what's been said to you. I don't know what lie has been told. But we're singing this song of saying, God, we're focusing on what you say I am, who you say I am. And maybe for the first time, you'll begin to tear away every lie and say, from this day forward, I'm only looking at myself through the label that matters most. I am a child of God. To God, Jesus, tell me the rest. I'm ready to go on the greatest adventure of my life. And here's what I want as she sings this song. I don't want you to run down forward. I want you to think about the labels, think about who you are, and then I want you to think about just one person. Because if we're awakening a generation to exactly who they are, I want you to think of just one name. And as she sings, I don't care if it's the first verse, I don't care if it's the second verse or the chorus. When you think of the one person that you're like, I want to help this person see themselves the way that I see them, the way that God sees them, I just want you to stand up where you are in your seat. When you stand, it simply signifies, I understand who I am, and I'm ready to help somebody else see who they are. And as we all pop up one by one in our own time, we'll begin to see a generation awakening to all that God is going to do through them. This is your moment.